Hola, bon dia from Portugal.
Hey there, how you doing? How are you doing today? How's this week going for you? What's new? What are we talking about today, Carl?
Well, I would love to check in first. This is the moment with the Munsons. Should we have a little moment? Is that okay with you, Mrs.
Let's do it.
Do you want to feel the weight of your body on the chair? It wasn't great yesterday, by the way. Thanks to Tom.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
we had Tom Evans from the Practical Alchemy Show, joining us, telling us a little bit about his kind of magic and how he has a pause. That was really helpful.
Square breathing, I think it was referred to as, wasn't it?
Yeah, in fact, we did have somebody in the comments after the show talking about the pause and how great it is to be a trombone player. I haven't responded to that yet. I'll bring it on to tomorrow's show.
I wasn't aware of that.
I'll bring it on.
Is this people who can speak and whilst breathing in?
I believe so.
Well
yeah, I believe so. Because obviously there are people out there that know how to use their breath in kind of magical and different ways to us normies, us kind of
muggles,
us breathing muggles. So yeah, that was great. And Tom, like he said yesterday, he's going to be on our show for the next 3 Mondays, sharing a bit more meditation and magic with us. I mean, he is an absolute content creator. We've known him for so many years, and he was one of the most sought after meditation experts on the app Insight Timer. I mean,
most, isn't he?
I don't know if he's I don't know if it's an empirical truth, but I mean, he's had well over 1 million views. That was like 5 years ago. So goodness knows where he is now. But he's really, really popular meditation coach, and he's written books about time and managing time and timelessness and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll get some good tips from him. So what's on your agenda right now?
Checking in. Look at this. How's your week going, and where are you right now? So let's place ourselves where we are. Should we be where we are?
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
Feel the weight of
and
the
let
body.
us know how you're feeling as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you're doing this with us,
feel the weight of your body on the chair, then, Mrs. M, if you will. I'll keep my eyes open so it doesn't look like the Sleep Channel. We are, of course, on New Reality TV. So I'm also feeling the weight of my body on the chair.
I am.
Maybe given that it's a little bit chilly here in Portugal, be aware of any cold spots on your body. I can feel my thighs and knees are a bit cold, and I don't need to go into any kind of drama or judgment about that. Just be aware of the fact, and that's helping me be where I am right now, responding to the sensory data. What else is going on for you, Mrs. M? Can you feel those headphones gently caressing your ears as well?
It's interesting, isn't it, when you bring your focus to something new, something that someone else is suggesting.
Yeah,
you can nearly always feel it. And I do feel that the top of my knees, the top of my legs feel slightly cooler to the touch. My ears do feel lovingly embraced by these headphones. So I'm quite relaxed, actually.
And feeling yourself sat on the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe your feet inside your shoes or slippers or whatever it is. I've not noticed. Can you any sensation in your feet?
I don't have slippers. I'm on my tiptoes.
I'm
on my tiptoes because to be a good relative height to you, I've had to lift up my chair. So
cheers. Is that comfortable?
It's just how it is.
Well, that's interesting in itself. You say that's how it is, but by bringing a conscious awareness to how you're sitting, can be very helpful and supportive of your body, can't it? I mean, this is what the practical beauty of being mindful and meditative is to see exactly what's going on, and that might not be very kind to your toes.
I can't actually put I'm extending my legs now and put my feet flat on the floor, but I can't quite do it.
Right. Okay.
But this is good enough.
Yes. All right. Well, if you're watching on New Reality TV, don't forget there is a Facebook group, and you can communicate with us and any of the presenters on New Reality TV via the Facebook group. Lovely to get your feedback in week 2. It feels like we've been doing this forever now, doesn't it? We're only into day 7, I think, episode 7 of the show.
Not even doing any breath work, but just noticing what I'm noticing about my physical body was actually enough to initiate that feeling of chill.
Yeah.
So how
You're
are
very
you
welcome. You're very
you.
welcome. That's what I mean. For years and years, I've wanted to share meditation. And as soon as you say meditation, it goes into all those ideas about meditation, doesn't it? And that's exactly what you just shared with me. is what I think is the beautiful value of self-awareness, which would be
Yeah.
another way of talking about. This is what Tom was
Well,
saying
that's
yesterday.
true. I mean, you kind of got no. I hope you don't mind me sharing this. A
We
pause
don't know
to
yet.
create space.
Right.
Okay, you got kind of not laughed off in Sight Timer, but you did get some snarky comments, didn't you? Because you were doing meditation with goats and meditation in a busy hotel. You did a meditation video in the middle of an IKEA showroom.
Yes, that was a memorable moment.
Just to prove that, you know, you can meditate and get meditative anywhere you go.
Well, yeah, absolutely right.
And it was so much fun seeing you in IKEA.
and
so they chilled out doing a live stream.
Portuguese people and Portuguese shop assistants in the IKEA retail chain are so chill and cool, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a good job.
That guy is filming himself meditating on that sofa over there. Nobody said a word. It was fantastic.
No, they just probably thought, oh, look, there's another influencer. I mean, can you imagine how many influencers go in there? Because we live.
I don't feel in any way special now. Thank you for that.
No disrespect.
There's another influencer.
But like, we go to our beach, like we're on the Atlantic Ocean, you know, in Portugal, and there's some beautiful scenic parts of the beach, and we often see girls, like young women with their boyfriends, and they're doing particular poses. Obvious that it's going to Instagram. You know,
and there's me behind them.
You know, but people are like, it's I think part of the culture now that like people are always looking for a good place to strike a pose and to put it straight out there. It's all content.
Yeah.
So I'm sure IKEA are used to that because they've got great backdrops, haven't they? All these different sceneries.
Yeah, and there's something wonderful about that, as well as vain as it might sound. And there was a slightly judgmental tone, if you don't mind me saying so, to what you were saying there, Mrs. M. But
I don't mean to cause any harm. I really don't.
Thinking about how you look,
yeah,
and seeing life as content is, strangely enough, a kind of mindfulness, isn't it? It's like you're not in the action.
Yeah,
you are transcending the action. Which actually is a great, it could be a great thing.
It is quite helpful to see yourself from a third party perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. It's as simple as that. And meditation has been so stigmatized and ruined, possibly in some ways, by all the pretentiousness. And I've been doing my best. A little bit like, is it Rick Rubin? Meditation Made Simple. Anyway, there are people who have tried to simplify the message, and I think that's great. Eckhart Tolle's another one. I think he tries to keep it simple, doesn't he? I mean, that's the job of a spiritual teacher. Anyway, I'm not that I'm calling myself that, but to simplify things and make it easy for people to get the juice out of what's being said, rather than all the ritual and the peripheral stuff to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I see we've got Lee, hi Lee, but Sarah as well.
Spiritual teachers and
but Sarah, I'm hoping that when Sarah comes on the show, which she is next week, I believe.
Yeah.
When Sarah comes on the show, maybe she'll do a kind of energy pull, kind of get us outside of our body and get us getting even more magnificent. I mean, she's fantastic at doing that. So there are so many different ways that we can play with our imagination and perception to be able to like take ourselves into that moment, that pause.
Right. Thank you for that, Sarah. Yeah, a pause to create
space.
We will endeavour to do that every time we are on this screen in front of you, is just to stop for a moment and to get into the body and perhaps experience, if I may say so, Mrs. M, experience the benefit you just outlined, highlight for us there. You know, the simple awareness of being here right now, which is so much more profound than it sounds. And it is, you know, it's a soundbite, isn't it? Be here now, but to actually do it and experience it is a wonderful thing, I think. And that's part of the service here.
If you don't mind, I'm going to use one of the things you said to me just a couple of days ago. We can take the new reality to our now reality.
Yes, exactly.
Play on
now
words.
Reality TV.
The now reality.
There we go. The now
How
reality.
can we do that?
So you were mentioning Sarah's joining us next week. Could you preview some of the guests that we have for the remainder of this week as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow we've got Tasha Salinas joining us from, is it Oklahoma maybe? So she's joining us. It's going to be super early in the morning for her, but she's joining us. And she is somebody who who's really playing with the voice at the moment, and the sort of channeled voice. So I think we're going to have a lovely conversation with her. I know she's got lots and lots to share, so that's going to be good. We've also got John Flaherty joining us on Thursday. He is from, now I might get his website wrong. I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's something like I have to come back to you on that one.
Be here now.
No, it's not be here now. But do you know what? He's got really a simple and beautiful way of seeing things. It's really, really amazing. I've interviewed him, I think, once in the past and had conversations in between time. And he's a real sort of gentle soul. Funnily enough, both Tasha and John have also got a religious background. You know, they've both done work with the church, and also I don't know if it's fair or accurate to say they've broken free of that to develop their spirituality, or that their spirituality came from their understanding of, you know, the benefits of religion and experience and stuff like that.
Sort of distinction between organized religion and spirituality.
Yeah, I think they've kind of made their experiences within organized religion into their own sort of expression, or part of their own expression. And I don't want to
We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, we'll find out. I may well be talking out of turn, but I'm really looking forward to that. I really remember with fondness speaking to John about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Hesitate slightly when you say his second name?
Yes, I do.
It's one of those Irish names, isn't it, where you're thinking you probably say this entirely differently to how it's spelled. So we'll find out how to say his name as well when we speak to him.
Yes.
It sounds like flirty, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm sure some people do pronounce it that way.
Yes.
But I'm sure I heard him say flirty.
Flirty, okay.
But I may well be wrong.
Okay, so Tasha and John this week.
And then Friday, it's just you and I having a good old chinwag and sort of catching up
Feel
from the
Good
previous
Friday,
two
see
shows.
how everyone's been, how their week's gone. The second week of our new show here at the moment on New Reality TV. And then back with Tom on Monday.
Yes, back with Tom on Monday. We've got Sarah. I can't remember what day Sarah's agreed to join us on, but maybe she'll let us know in the chat room. You're welcome to join us anytime,
Looking
Sarah.
forward to talking to Sarah. And there's a pre-recorded episode with Sarah up on
there is,
New
episode
Reality
3.
as well.
Yeah, so if you want to listen in fact, we've got some great episodes. We've got a pre-recorded episode with Tom, with Sarah, and also with our good friend Vinny. We've actually got 3 episodes of Vinny. He does subliminal processes. Is it processes or processes? I mean, losing my voice. Processes. He does these subliminal processes, and so we spoke to him. I think probably around April, May of last year. And we were having so much fun with him that we recorded like 3 episodes back to back.
Extraordinary man.
Yeah. And there's also a meditation within that. So you can join us in that. That's available already on New Reality TV. I really recommend it. So
right, Sarah's joining us next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday, Sarah.
Fantastic.
I can say that because she's a good friend.
Yes.
And today then a question for you, as well as pondering the question, given that we're on New Reality TV, how is it looking to you? What are the signals to you? Yes, you that we're in a period of change, of a new reality. I'm really feeling it. At the moment, I'm just writing my first Substack article, or do you just call it a Substack?
I don't know.
It's a generic thing now, isn't it?
Is it like a noun? Like, is it?
It's
like
a Hoover, Walkman, and Substack.
I mean, do you like? Do you Substack? I'm just going for a Substack.
Right.
You know, do you Substack? Is it like
I just did.
Yeah, you did Substack, didn't you?
And I'm asking. I mean, it's an age-old question. Is it me? Is there an intense tipping point taking place right now? Because I'm really feeling it, Mrs. M.
Yeah.
Astrological portents seem to be saying so.
Yes, absolutely. There hasn't been a time like this in recorded history.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
but we've got George here, who's an old friend. He's known us for 14 years, hasn't he? He's in the chat room. George, has Carl been saying, does it feel like there's a tipping point for 14 years? That's my question.
There he goes. Munson's off again, saying there's going to be a massive paradigm shift or a sea change. Or
it does feel like that.
Oh, come on. It really does.
Yeah, it really does. So tell me, okay, how do you know there is a tipping point? And if you do know there's a tipping point, how do you know if it's a collective tipping point, i.e. we're all doing it, or that it's a personal one? That's what I want to know, Carl.
Yeah, if one person is having a change, that's going to affect the whole in some small way, possibly. Yeah, I'm talking about intensity. I'm talking about how there are periods in history, aren't there, where there is really rapid change or turbulence in society. And that's also the paradox, or the foot on the gas and the foot on the brake at the same time. You know, I would there are changes I would like to see for humanity that I've wanted all my life. ever since being, I'm sure, I think you would agree with that for yourself, right? That there are things that you thought about the world since being a teenager that would be, you might have judged as being useful for humanity, what we might grow into or grow up to be. And so we kind of nurse those desires for the collective.
Yeah.
Simple thing like, more peace in the world, for example. And then there is the inbuilt resistance to change among human beings. That's the foot on the brake, isn't it? Yeah. And it's the progressive versus the conservative. It's all of these forces that are very familiar in our society, night and day, even dark and light. These forces are working together to try and find balance or homeostasis or whatever whatever context we're looking at it at. But in the process of finding balance, sometimes the scales or the levers tip in a quite a vigorous or boisterous way, and that I'm thinking that's where we're at the moment. It does seem like that to me, and I don't know if it seems like that to anybody else.
Sarah's, I love that, George. Yeah, second 7-year itch. Sarah's question: how many years does the tipping point last? What if it isn't only 1 second long? See, I was just trying to remind myself while you were talking about I was listening as well. When I was
right.
years and years ago.
You mean you don't listen to me all the time?
Not all the time, if I'm honest. Now, years and years ago, I was working for Air Tours, a sort of like big UK travel company, who I don't even know if they're still in existence, but they had some sort of manager training that I was on, and they were talking about forming, norming, storming, and performing.
Yes.
Like the stages of development we were going through. And when I was thinking about how do you know if there is a tipping point?
Yeah.
I really think that we had a tipping point around the time of the COVID narrative, and we're kind of forming together a new idea or consensus of how things are. And then we start to normalize everything. In fact, there were these phrases such as, oh, this is the new normal. I mean, that was everywhere, wasn't it?
It was.
And then we start to kind of storm ahead with this like new reality, and then we start to get results. But, I'm not necessarily suggesting that particular narrative and that time has created positive results or results that we necessarily want, or that they haven't done. I'm not trying to judge what's happened since then, but to me, it feels like when we go through change, we have that initial shock of the change, but the change is ongoing, which is kind of matching what Sarah's saying about things about being 1 second long. The change from that particular time might still be rolling out 20 years later.
And we can only get a sense of things, and I think we can only say apparently, because the longer and harder we look at something, the more abstracted and conceptual it becomes. Like academia, can you imagine the journey of a scientist who, for example, might, as a child, and this might have inspired them to become a scientist in a lab and go to university and become a undergraduate, a postgraduate, and a doctor and a professor of their subject, all from a moment, a second, you might say. Like Sarah, they had their personal tipping point as a child, where they saw the wing of a dragonfly, and from that moment onwards, it's like, I'm going to study this miracle of a thing that I saw. And fast forward 30, 40, 50 years later, and that person is the celebrated professor of dragonfly wings. And there's no guarantee that they're a happy person, is there? That second of joy they had as a child, which created that career, that academic approach to it, the judgments, the conceptualization, the dustiness, the fustiness, the application, the applied nature, it might have taken all the joy out of it. And that's what we're up against as human beings. We have to, that second of joy is available to us in every second. And it doesn't mean because we discovered it once, it's going to be there for the rest of our lives. I hope that scientist does have that joy for the rest of their lives. But we see, don't we, that whenever we study something, it can actually kill the joy as much as prolong. I mean, I guess it's the human ego, isn't it?
Do you know what? I wasn't sure where you were coming from with that example. First of all, when you started talking about that, it brought to mind every single one of those kind of clickbait videos that I've ever clicked on that has said
1 second changed my life.
Yeah. Where somebody is about to sell something that's going to save our energy like the way we use energy at home, or
like terracotta pots and a tea
no,
light?
but like people that have designed
Oh yeah,
I don't know how to create your own electricity out of an old washing machine
and a rubber band.
And they tell the story of how their wife was pregnant with their second child, and there was a blizzard, and they were cut off from electricity.
I want to hear the rest of this story now.
I have like watched one of them that has a very similar story. So they were caught in a blizzard, no access to electricity, wife going into labor, and they were freezing cold at home, it was like they tell these like really grim stories, and it's a turning point, because after that he decided no woman ever is going to have a child in those kinds of situations. And then boom, 10 years later there's this prototyped very sellable blueprint as to how you can create that. And there's so many different stories like that, you know, where people have a particular scenario, a situation, and from their sort of moment of pain comes this evolution of something. And so like Sarah saying, how many years does that tipping point last? They might have had a tipping point that like took them 5 years, but it manifested something really quite positive.
Yeah.
You know, who knows how long the tipping point of COVID, you know, will last. I mean, it could go on forever. It could go on for 50 years. It might sort of like round up. That really reminds me of the fact that, you know, we are living in a year of astrological cycles, all kind of culminating in this year. We've got some very unusual patterns, the likes of which we've never seen before. Yeah. And so is that because we've got all these long-term cycles from, like, for instance, there's cycles dating back to the 1700s and 1800s. You know, we've got these really big things. So are the circumstances we're living through right now the ending point of a story started back like 5 or 6 generations or 8 generations or 20 generations ago,
all at the same time?
I think this is what's going on. There's a whole heap of cycles just manifesting at the same time.
It's like a spirograph or a fractal, isn't it? All of these, all of the second long thing, the year long thing, the 10-year long thing, the epoch length thing, it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And in any given moment, this multi-dimensional fractal of our reality is there. And it's all about where we're positioning ourselves and our point of view of that, I think, isn't it? And that's, so, you know, my point of view, this question is like, am I experiencing only a personal tipping point, or is it a general one? And probably the fairest answer, the most comfortable answer is yes and no, probably, or apparently,
or it's both,
it's both, and being comfortable with that.
Well, what do you think? Like, I mean, Sarah, George, Lee, and you know, if you're sat watching and you haven't joined us in the chat room, what do you think?
Say hi. Come and
you know,
say
like
hi.
What cycles are going on with you right now? Like, what have you noticed? And do you think there is a collective tipping point, or do you think you might be having a personal one, or do you not have a tipping point at all? Maybe you've gone through. I mean, I do really feel like there's one going on for me as well. Interesting, you mentioned a fractal universe, Carl, because if you are going through a personal tipping point, there are theories like quantum entanglement, which I love, by the way, but that says that, you know, if one of us is changing, then all of us is changing. You know, I always think about, you know, teaching our kids to be able to use a kaleidoscope. You know, as they're kind of changing their view, all of a sudden the whole picture, it's not just like one little bit changes. It changes, but it leads the change of the whole new picture.
Yeah.
And so if you're changing in a tipping point, then I think they're like, ergo, other people are also changing. And of course, the more they're being lifted up, the more we're being lifted up. And Sarah talking about space, it's pause to create space.
Yeah.
You know, if one of us is doing that, we are creating this new space. I think space is actually what we need right now.
And a perceiver. The perceiver is everything as well, isn't it? Of that. So, you know,
I want to be able
to
observe the changes we're going through.
That brilliant midwife question. You know, who's saying that?
Yeah.
And we'll talk to Mary one of these days, won't we? Because I love what she did and what she says. Like, you know, you were describing your childbirth experience and you're in pain, and you said something. She said, "Who is saying that?"
Yeah.
And so when it comes to this question of like, am I having a personal tipping point, or am I experiencing a collective tipping point?
It doesn't matter. We're all
who's asking.
Yeah.
Because that's an important part of the question. And maybe that's what happens to the child who loved the dragonfly and the professor 60 years later who studies dragonflies is, where is that perceiving individual? Are they in joy still? Are they having a point of view of joy? Are they in their joy, or are they somewhere else? And that is only something, that part of it, where our point of view is something we are in control of, or can be responsible for, or not, if we don't want to be. But maybe, and that's what this conversation is about. That's what, to me, the new reality TV is about, is a kind of coming together of a particular point of view, which is nourishing, because then you have a sense, don't you, that you are, as Sarah's saying here, I think people on our fractal, that's a collective point of view, isn't it, are showing up for us more than ever.
Yes.
And presumably, when you are watching new reality TV and you see the comments of other people and you think, okay, I think a bit like that, or I'd never thought about it like that, and I like that, you create a sense, don't you, that this is a collective tipping point, where you might have started the show thinking, I'm the only one who thinks like this, and thank God I found this show. And then it changes again, doesn't it? It's constantly changing. It's constantly moving. And in the moment, we can get a sense of the quality of that perception, of that point of view, and answer that question. And ultimately, it's not that important. It's not a clincher,
no,
or the be all and end all. It's just interesting to consider, I think.
Well, one of the things that you were saying earlier, about like the young child fascinated with, it's interesting. You were talking about dragonflies, because one of our friends actually painted me a dragonfly.
That's what made me think of it, actually.
Oh.
And the joy of a dragonfly.
I was about to show the painting.
Well, it's encapsulated. It's embodied in that. I mean, is that not what great art is? The moment of joy is transmitted.
Yeah, I think that's one of the difficulties with being human, is that we can have these beautiful moments of joy, and the moment we try to capture and replicate the joy, it goes wrong. Like I actually used to do paintings and sit on a bridge in France, and I spent a few summers doing that and enjoyed it. But the moment people started buying particular pictures and wanting more of it again, I ended up doing a bit of
a production line.
Yes, at home. I would go home, do a production line of the same prints. And then the next day, those would be the ones that would be selling. And of course, the joy came straight out of it. So, this is an important thing. No, I think this is a conversation to carry on another day.
It's really important. How can you refresh your joy?
Oh,
if your browser,
your joy.
If your browser, your cosmic browser, it lands you on a joy page. How do you find another joy page? How do you refresh the current joy page such that it stays in joy? Because we know, don't we, as human beings, it doesn't happen by itself, and it won't always stay the same way. That's the dynamic of the world we live in. Which I think is wonderful.
Well, I think that's a topic for another
very
day.
hard.
It's hard
for us humans. It's hard work being awake and alive and connected to joy in a strange sense, isn't it? Because you've got to address that which isn't bringing that to your life.
Yeah, and I'm guessing so many people that watch this show and will watch new reality TV, I think will be the kinds of people who are doing jobs related to what lights them up. And of course, there is the inherent problem of once you start doing it because you're earning money, how do we refresh our joy? So I remember my best jobs were actually cleaning tents in France years ago. Loved that.
In the way that Tom was saying, is that it wasn't too demanding on the conscious brain, and you could just drift into it and embody and model it. Fantastic. In this beautiful sunshine, says Hugh, I think it's a joyful moment. Cutting back the vines in the vineyard in front of Quinta dos Três Rios, which is here in Portugal. Real chill out. And look, refresh your joy. I woke up just for that good one.
Hey, Nubina, how are you?
We got to go, Mrs.
M. So how are you going to refresh your joy?
Well, we'll have
for the rest of the day.
We'll have to carry on tomorrow with this conversation. Take care, everybody. Bye for now. We got to go. Ciao, ciao. Bye.